Tell us about what you're trying to do as far as like in life or with yourself.
Well, man, first off, you know, I am Obu Marconish. I'm from a place called Brickyard, and that's in Clarksdale, Mississippi, the Mississippi Delta. And statistically speaking, I'm not even supposed to be here doing this sort of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I love my origins. I love where I come from. Man, the question is, what am I not trying to do? Well, okay, answer the question. The reason for the video, you know, I created this beard balm product. It's 100% all natural and things like that. And our tagline is, don't be good, be revolutionary.
What's up, Joe?
What's good, brother?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, right on. So good to see you, man.
Sat down, man.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Glad to be here, man. It's
So
cool.
let's
it's
get
cool.
to it, man. So
Yeah.
you know the gist of what we're doing here.
Right on,
you know,
right on.
Trying to,
Yeah.
you know, profile these young revolutionary thinkers, doers,
Yeah.
beers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, I want to thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for making the time in your busy schedule to sit down here at this beautiful venue, the bike shop and stuff
man.
like that.
This is gorgeous. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna come out firing just yet, you know what I'm saying? So tell us about Joe Davis. Tell us about your passion, your interest. How did you get into poetry and activism? That's what I want to do.
Word. Yeah, you know, I'm a poet, teacher, activist. I'm really just passionate about people, man. I consider myself an artist of the people, for the people. And that's really why I got into activism in the first place, is because I see people getting hurt, suffering, and I want to end that, particularly people who look like me.
Right.
You know, so that's my focus, is alleviating that suffering, ending that suffering by any means necessary. And so I feel like I've been gifted with, with spoken word poetry, with music, with creative ways to engage with other people. So I want to use those gifts to try to stop the suffering of my people.
Let's talk about that piece. You talk about, you know, ending the suffering or fighting for the people who look like you.
Right.
Let's talk about that whole, like, look deals with perception. You know, it deals with conception as well. So let's talk about, how can I word this? What do you think is the greatest misconception or misperception, or however you want to word it, of young black men in America, the world in general?
Yeah, man. There's a lot.
I know.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I told you I wasn't gonna come out firing.
Hey, nah. It's a much needed question to be answered, you know, and I ain't even got the answer, you know what I mean? But I can just say from my experience, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that black men are dangerous, that we're violent, that we're criminal. To me, that feels like the biggest misconception. And I will say the reason why I pushed a little further and said violent or criminal is because I actually do think that we are dangerous. We're dangerous to the status quo. We're dangerous to the current system of power, one in which tries to destroy us. So when we're intelligent and when we're aware and conscious of that system, then we are dangerous because we're a threat to that system. But we're not criminal. We're not. There's a stigma, a social, cultural stigma. I think that's the biggest misconception.
How do you begin to go about changing that perception, if it's even necessary to change? Like, how do you begin down that path?
Yeah, the way I was taught is to lead by example, and so I try to exhibit that through my everyday life and try to be a leader among other leaders. I don't think I'm like the sole. I'm one voice of a collective many. So I'm doing this work alongside others, and I feel like we're just trying to cultivate a culture, a movement of truth, really, just truth, authenticity, honesty of who we really are, and celebrating that. So like through my music, through my poetry, I try to celebrate my humanity, the humanity of my community, and uplift that. That's primarily my focus when I'm writing, when I'm performing. That's what I'm trying to do, is to celebrate. I think that's something that I find lacking around me oftentimes is joy and celebration. Because I think we have to dwell in the midst of the sorrow and the heartbreak and the suffering, but sometimes we're not expected to have joy. And I wanna bring joy, to light as well.
I want to press that point.
Right.
Express more about what do you mean about we're not expected to have joy. That really stuck out to me.
Yeah. As I talked about, the system that we're living in, I think wants us to repress a lot of ourselves, a lot of how we feel. And when you turn on the TV, I don't really watch TV, but if you turn on the TV and if you're looking at the internet any amount of time, a lot of the images you see of black men are going to be images of like just struggle and heartbreak and rage, which I want to validate those emotions. Like those are all emotions that I feel and have felt, but rarely is it seen us celebrating.
Right.
Rarely is it seen us being joyful. And so I kind of want to show that.
That kind of reminds me of what people say about where I'm from, the Mississippi Delta. As you know, it's known for blues music.
Right.
And people when it comes to Mississippi, it's like, how they show Mississippi, how they portray Mississippi in general, and not just black stuff, but in general.
Right.
It's always sad, and it's like this rolling sand around there that they want Mississippi to stay with the blues.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that point. So let's talk about like some of the social movements that's going on right now, like with the whole BLM movement, Black Liberation Movement. What do you think is the outlook for the revolution that we're trying to vouch for, that we're fighting for, that we're speaking for, protesting for? Where do you think we're headed?
Where we headed? That's a good question. I think we're definitely trying to bridge the gap between younger generations and older generations. I'm seeing that a lot, where you have the energy and the creativity of the young folk, but then we also need to lean on the wisdom and the experience of the elders. And so I see a lot of partnerships, a lot of collaborations, a lot of co-learning where there's an exchange of those. Yeah, exactly. We're pushing forward. I think that's happening maybe in a way that's unprecedented because of ways that we have to connect. Not just the internet, but we've kind of created really intentional spaces for that to happen. So that's one thing I'm excited about, seeing more of that happening. Yeah, man. I see, and I mentioned social media and the internet. I mean, that's also a very powerful tool that's being used that our previous generations didn't have access to. And so I think that's another way we're heading. We're using technology, not just social media, but technology in general, to galvanize and to propel our movement.
Right, to tap into your foresight one more time.
Yeah.
You just spoke very eloquently about where you think we're headed. What do you think would hinder us from getting to that place where we bridge gaps to spark change? What do you think is stopping us?
Yeah. I think that for me, one of the things that I've encountered that has been really hindering has been ego. I think when we get caught up in ourselves and when we focus just on ourselves, because I think self-care is important, and knowing yourself and understanding yourself, who you are, who you come from, and that work is much needed as well. So I'm not knocking that, but I'm saying sometimes people just get really big egos, man. They just think about it's all about them. They just want the spotlight on them. They just want a microphone. They want to be out front. All these things that can destroy a movement. We have to recognize that we need each other to survive. We need to work together. We can't just focus on, even Ella Baker talked a lot about this, kind of a critique of the attention that was put on Dr. King. And not even to say his work wasn't needed, because it was, but saying that the attention that was put on him, because when a leader is taken out, then what happens to the movement? If it's not like group-centered and shared power, collective power, what happens when like the one person who's always out in front gets taken out? If we're hinging all of our hope on that one person, you know what I mean? So I think we need to have a healthy ego to where it's not overtaking the collectivism and the collaboration and partnerships that are going to drive the movement forward.
Yeah. I agree with you saying. And that's a delicate balance. Because,
Right.
I mean, a leader's job, at least I feel, is not necessarily to control or to take charge of the spotlight, but
right.
To lead more in a facilitatory role where it's I'm going to lead you to become a leader for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We during the Phase 4 days, I remember us having a similar conversation about that.
Yeah.
Shout out Phase 4, Minnesota.
Shout out, represent
humanity through arts. Yeah. It's your time, but
that's all of us.
In closing,
Yeah.
do you consider yourself a revolutionary? And if
Absolutely.
so, how do you consider? How are you revolutionary?
Yeah, man. I think unquestionably, first and foremost, I do consider myself a revolutionary, and the way that I express that in my daily life is I'm trying to decolonize with everything that I do. I'm trying to decolonize my mind, decolonize the language that we're using, and really being an abolitionist as well. In all the ways that I see slavery, because I believe we live in a Slavocracy, which is a slave economy, a ruling, governing body that's sustained by slavery. And we have, the history of our country shows this, because it was conceived on the bodies of black and brown people. And then you had the Emancipation Proclamation, which would lead many to think that slavery was ended, that it was abolished. But I think it just transferred because that economic bed was still needed. And so I think it was transferred to what we now have is the prison industrial complex. And there's
probably worse too.
Yeah, exactly, because it's kind of concealed, right? Not a lot of people are aware of this. And so I consider myself an abolitionist, studying that system and understanding how to break that down and abolish that, and then using my creativity and my passions and my gifts to not only raise awareness but to mobilize people as well. That's how I try to do it, man. And there's different ways. I'm still learning. I'm a student of the movement, so I'm always eager to find new ways to attack and to give joy and to give life and liberation. So yeah.
I'm gonna challenge you. You're a wordsmith.
Yeah.
Say everything you want to say to the world in 3 words.
3 words. All right. Only love matters.
You can't spell revolutionary without love. Think about it. Don't be good, be revolutionary.
Yeah. Word.
This is love, man. This is dope, man.
Yeah.